All right, so like Daniel said, every event that we do is, for you guys to just sort of learn more about a particular industry. Obviously, around the holidays, people are thinking about food, so we wanted to have, a panel that, really focused around food for thought. So I'm just going to have each one of you shortly introduce yourselves so people can know a little bit more about you as we get started with the questions.
My name is Eric Sandler. I'm a staff writer at Culture Map. I cover the bar and restaurant scene. And I've been with Culture Map since the very end of July of 2013.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandy Tran. I'm co-owner of Sweet and newly opened Toot Sweet. Sweet has been open for about 4 years in February, and Toot Sweet just opened in September.
So I am Anne. I'm Sandy's partner. Let's see here. Sweet is about to turn 5 in February, and Toot Sweet is just newly open 3 months now. So yes, happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Justin Turner. I'm the owner of Bernie's Burger Bus. I opened up 4 years ago with one school bus, and now we currently have 2 school buses and a restaurant in Bel Air.
Very cool. So I want to start with you, Justin. You started out with one bus, and you've now got a few brick and mortar stores. Tell me about some of the biggest challenges.
Just one. Just
Sorry.
one right now.
Tell me about the biggest challenge that you face making that transition from the bus to the brick and mortar.
Actually, the transition was really only the service end of things. We wanted to make sure we captured as best as we could the service side of it to make sure people are getting the experience that is different from the trucks, because at the trucks all we have to offer is food, and with the brick and mortar you have to throw in the service side of it as well, and so that has to be executed at a certain level to match with the food, and that would definitely be the most challenging side of it. But I had 3.5 years of practice before we opened the restaurant, cooking-wise, so doing that part was absolutely easy.
And you talked to me a little bit earlier about making sure that the quality is there as you expand. Can you talk to me about why you want to be so intentional about keeping the quality high as you grow?
I mean, that's all I have. The quality of food is why people come to restaurants, and so to grow, the only way to do that properly is to manage that food. And so the reason why we picked the location that we're at is to have a commissary kitchen that was large enough to facilitate multiple restaurants, multiple buses, any other venture that we took on here in Houston, as well as serve to the public.
So I have a question for the self-taught baker. Who is that?
The both of us.
Both of you? All right. So Anne, I want to ask you, as a self-taught baker, you grow the brand with Sweet and Toot Sweet. And tell me about how you've made the challenge or the step from actually having a small operation to growing the brand and growing the quality of food as you go along.
Okay, so when we before Sweet even opened, Sandy and I spent about a good 2 years just baking at home every single day for hours on end, just recipe testing. That was before Crave cupcakes came, Sprinkle cupcakes came. We just knew that Houston didn't have a cupcake place, and all in all, just a general bakery. So we just spent 2 years solid before we even opened to recipe tests.
And during that time, we really tried to market ourselves, and we participated in events like, farmers markets, and we did Summerfest before we opened, just to get, our name out there and to kind of have a feel for our clients and who we wanted to cater to.
Yeah, and so from there, we started with nothing. It was just us two. It took a long time just to strategize, what would our location would be. Starting with nothing, no established marketing, no established brand. It's just us. So that took some time as well, and we were lucky that we opened in a really popular place, obviously City Center. And then from there, it was really important that obviously we had to let our product speak for itself. So if any of you guys haven't tried our cupcakes, till this day, I think it's pretty darn good. We strictly bake fresh from scratch. We stand behind, baking with the best ingredients that we can find, and letting it speak for itself. So obviously 5 years later, or 4 years later, we now have Toot Sweet. And how we got from there is obviously with Sweet, it's not even 1,000 square feet. We quickly outgrew that kitchen, and so now we're in Toot Sweet, which is a way bigger kitchen that allows us to bake, cupcakes, macaroons, other specialty cakes, and an array of desserts. Yeah.
And Sandy, you handled a lot of the back end with accounting and things like that, right? Can you tell me about, as a person that's starting to grow a business, can you tell me about some of the pitfalls that a person might face as they handle some of the financials of a business?
Oh, definitely. I think when you start out, everyone's really, really excited, and you become really trusting, or you hang on to everyone's word, and you kind of agree with everyone. So I think it's really, really important that you always do your research. When you deal with vendors or get bids, always make sure that you check their references and double check, prices and stuff like that, because you definitely don't want to pay for something that is obviously overpriced. And with that being said, any oral agreement that you may have with someone, always to have it in writing. Anything that's serious or it has anything to do with money, for sure. And that's obviously speaking from a lot of experiences. So we've been burned quite a few times, and that is definitely something that I would recommend to anyone, is anything to deal with the landlord, to deal with your neighbor, even with customers. Everything needs to be in writing.
All right, so I got a question for you, Eric. So by now, I'm sure you've gotten a chance to patron both of these businesses. I'm curious, from your perspective, why do you think these two companies stand out among the crowd? Burgers are accessible to everyone, pastries are accessible to everyone, but I want to know from your perspective why you think these two businesses sort of stand out.
Sure. I think one of the things that sets Bernie's apart in particular is Justin's rigorous obsession with very high quality. If you go to Bernie's, it's super consistent. The burgers are always good. The fries are always fresh. He's constantly innovating. There's always a new special burger on the menu. He does at least one a month. He's always playing around with new ideas for milkshakes and toppings on fries. And I think that one of the ways that Bernie's is really good is because Justin is just so personally driven. And then I think Toot Sweet is phenomenal. I think as soon as you walk in, there are many things about it that are appealing. The first of which is the variety of the selection. You can do grab and go coffee and a pastry. You can sit down and have breakfast or lunch, or a very light dinner. And it has this different seating areas within it. So you can come with your laptop and get some work done. You can go with friends and hang out on couches and talk. You can just come in for just a meal. And it's open till midnight every night. And it's in Edo, which is a very up-and-coming area. There's a lot of residential going in over there. And it's become a spot for that neighborhood, this emerging neighborhood, right when the neighborhood was ready for a concept like that. So, good timing in addition to a good concept can be really key.
Very articulate. Would you guys agree with his assessment of your companies?
Yeah, that was really nice.
Wow, I'm
Thank
blushing.
you. If I could stand up and hug him, I would.
The same
there's
here.
time after that. There's
It's-
time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's definitely what
But
we
I
were
would-
thinking in our mind.
I would agree, though. I mean, timing and a great product is what it's all about. I mean, if I started Bernie's Burger Bus 3 years later, just started it a year ago, I don't know if I would have had the traction I did 4 years ago when there was no food trucks here at all. So, yeah, timing is huge, for sure.
And Eric, a follow-up question is, you write for a large publication. It holds a lot of weight in the community. And I'm curious, what measures do you take to make sure that you're making a fair criticism of a new business? It could be positive or negative, but I'm just curious to see how you go about that.
Well, I mean, the really honest answer is that I can't think about the fact that it's someone's business. I really see my obligation to the consumer. There are a lot of restaurants in this city. They are all competing for dollars. And on a very fundamental level, a lot of my work is designed to answer the question of, is this worth it? Is this worth my time? Is this worth my money? Is this worth breaking the routine of the places that I already go that I know that I like? And so, you know, when I go to a new place, when other writers that do what I do go to new places, I mean, that question or those questions are always at the forefront.
Very good. So I'm going to open it up to questions. If anyone has a question, they can go to sli.do/platformit. Again, that's sli.do/platformit. And whatever the best questions are, we're going to rise them to the top, and I'll be able to ask our panelists the questions. So Justin, I have a question for you. You started your entrepreneurial journey about 4 years ago. And since you've started, what are some of the things that you've learned that if you could tell yourself 4 years ago that you would sort of try to avoid?
Wow. I would learn to be a mechanic before I started this. Really and truly, I think my ignorance of not knowing what I was about to go through is what kind of pulled me through everything that I was going to do. I mean, I had an idea, I had a goal, but the path is something, you know, that's the challenging part. And to keep it consistent and to get up every day and do the exact same thing over and over again is the challenge. So, yeah, I would say the best thing that I did 4 years ago was be as ignorant as I was about what I was about to go through. Because it's let my drive and my goals become a little bit easier to palate than to think about all the crazy stuff that we have to do on a daily basis.
And would you advise that for someone else, or would you advise to say, hey, get some mentorship from somebody like yourself who's, you know, been through all of the struggles and you could learn from them?
Oh yeah, learn. I mean, I still rip stuff off from people. I mean, I read, I follow people on Twitter. People have ideas. I'm not reinventing the wheel. People have done it way better than me. So I'm going to take ideas from people and I'm going to make them my own. But yeah, learn as much as you can, work for as many people as you can. I mean, especially in the food industry, don't go to culinary school. Don't waste your time going to culinary school. Go cook in a restaurant and do it for a couple of years and see if you like it, because culinary school is expensive and it is nothing like what it's like to be inside an actual kitchen. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to be a coach, I would say go work for a basketball team and learn, you know, being the towel boy, what it's like to work your way up through that system, because ultimately there's no point in going to school and learning how to do something if you're not really going to be passionate about it. So.
All right, so I have a question for you, Ann and Sandy. Both of you are self-taught in the respective things that you now seem to be experts at. I'm curious, if you could go back to school and take one class in something that sort of troubles you on a day-to-day basis, or you know, like, man, I wish I could get some more expertise in this particular subject, what would it be?
Quite honestly, I would have to say it's all about experience. Definitely, I don't really feel like there's any class that I could really take to guide me through what I've already been through right now. It's just, my advice would be just to go through it and just to do it and experience it for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, for me, I did go back to school. I got my master's in business. But still, I stand behind Sandy that business cannot be taught. It's pretty much you learn as you go. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The only thing I think that we both could agree that if anything that we wanted to study right now, like in a classroom setting, would be global business. to just learn more about business politics and how to expand the business, especially if you're trying to, broaden globally anyways.
Is that an exclusive here that you're going to be launching a new toot suite overseas?
It's in the works, actually.
All right, we'll look out for that. So let me check to see if we have any questions from the audience. None just yet. Again, here we go. One question is, when did you actually start making money? Any of you can ask that or answer that. I know a lot of businesses, he's looking at his watch, he's like, how much time do we have? No, I know a lot of businesses happen to take a couple years to actually, after they put in the initial investment, start to make money. So the question is, when did you guys start actually making money?
Okay, I'm going to jump on this and answer really quick. First things first. Mark my words, the struggle is real. Okay?
You heard it here first.
You can hashtag that, by the way.
Yes. And people always think, especially like when they walk into like the bakery or a toot suite, and they always think like, oh, business looks so good, they must be making money, they must be rich.
Or we're always busy, they must be like rolling in the dough. We're like, no.
False. False, entirely false. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. A lot.
Just as a benchmark, I mean, what they say, especially in school, 3 years, it is 3 or plus years for sure, is when we actually start turning a profit. If you think about your initial investment, it's easily over, any small place, even with our establishment at Sweet, we were only like 800 square feet, and it's at least 300 to $500,000 easily, just in a little space. So if you're thinking about that, just paying that back, it's a lot of money. So for sure, at least 3 years.
Okay. And I think this question is sort of directed to you, Eric. What is your view of the relationship between restaurant owners and food bloggers?
I mean, there's obviously a symbiotic relationship. Right, restaurant owners want more patrons. Writers, I don't really consider myself a blogger for what that's worth, but writers want subjects to cover, content that people want to read. So I think, I think there's a perception sometimes that there's an antagonistic relationship between business people and the media, and that happens. I mean, I have written negative things about very prominent restaurants, but at the end of the day, there's also a mutual respect. As long as you're honest in your evaluations and faithful to what you do, you can disagree with what someone is doing without having a negative relationship where you come from a place of mutual understanding.
Do you guys want to add to that from a restaurateur perspective?
You guys all get great press, so you shouldn't have anything to complain about. Oh, no.
All right, so Justin, I'll ask you a question. How much time do you spend at your locations, whether it be with the bus or the brick and mortar location?
Every bit of 70 hours a week. Most of it is at my location because that is our commissary. So the buses, Reliance Stadium, any event that we have outside the restaurant and the restaurant are all facilitated out of that kitchen. And so I every day I try to at least go in there and taste everything. That is the very most important thing to me. So even if we expand this into 4 more projects here in the Houston area, it will all come out of that kitchen, and I'll be there always tasting it, doing the same thing.
Okay. Eric, you've been an editor at eater.com as well, and you're working now at Culture Map. Do you have any ambitions to set out on your own in the next year or so, or is your ambition more to build Culture Map?
I think certainly in the next year I'm not going anywhere. I have grown incredibly, both in terms of my public profile and just as a writer, just in terms of my skill over the last year and a little bit with Culture Map. And so I'd really like to see where that goes. I've only been writing professionally for about 2.5 years. So, I think there's always a temptation, particularly for people who didn't know me before I entered this world, to feel like, you've done this forever. Like, you got to go, you got to keep growing. But I was 34 when I took this job, so I feel the weight of my personal history, and I'm sort of astounded at how far I've come in such a short time, and so I'm going to kind of see where I'm at before I make any really big changes.
Okay. And Justin, has your understanding of the food truck scene helped you in the brick and mortar space that you have now?
Not really. I mean, I did the brick and mortar stuff before just for other people, making them money. So the food truck, to me, was always about marketing. I never tried to make money on the trucks. I really still, my intentions are just to always break even with the food trucks, is because to me that's my way of growing my brand. That was my way 4 years ago of introducing myself after being a personal chef and no one for 7 years basically, no one seeing my food. And I think my education of trucks has changed. I think I had to adapt, and what we were doing 4 years ago with food trucks and what we're doing now with food trucks is completely different. I go about it differently. The regulations and laws and the amount of food trucks that are here in Houston now compared to 4 years ago is different. So it's a constantly evolving business, and I feel like it's a great way for someone to start off. I feel it's a great way for someone to try and get to the next level, but to think you're going to make money doing it, you're not going to do that at all. So.
And do you think it's now oversaturated, or are there still opportunities for great concept to emerge and be successful?
I'm probably one of those naive cooks that believes that great food will prevail. So if you have great food and you're at least palatable for people to talk to and receive your food, I think you could do well, as long as you price yourself correctly. But I'm a firm believer in the cream will always rise to the top, and no matter what, if a guy comes in and opens up a steakhouse here in Houston but does an amazing job, he's going to rise. It doesn't matter that there's 75 steakhouses here in Houston. So.
We got a question for Eric that's been voted up a couple times. Have you ever had a bad review come back and hurt you in any way, physically or otherwise? I added that.
I have never been physically assaulted. I've been yelled at a few times, both by chefs and by their representatives. But honestly, I mean, I understand that kind of comes with the job. There are places that I have avoided in the short term while I let something blow over. But like I said, I've written some tough things about restaurants, and then I find that a month later, 2 months later, everybody comes around eventually. Because I hope that the readers perceive this, and that my work has some integrity to it, and that people see that. Recently I was interviewing a chef that I had written something bad about, and we had a great interview, a really honest conversation, and it turned into an article that I was really proud of. And then as soon as I turned off the recorder, he shook my hand and looked me right in the eye and said, "Wow, I thought I was never going to talk to you again." But he did, and generally they usually do.
Very good. So I have a question for you, Ann and Sandy. You two have had the opportunity to watch Houston grow and evolve. I'm curious, what are some things that new business owners can do to help them get a better understanding of the Houston market? A person who maybe has just moved here, who wants to start a company, what are some things that they can do, whether it be networking, get into different groups, going to different restaurants and events like this?
I would definitely have to say being active on social media is a really, really big one. Being active on Instagram, finding out where their events are, and like pop-up dinners, especially if you want to be in our industry. There's a lot of pop-up dinners all the time, every month. Blacksmith by Night does one once a month, and a lot of great people come out to those events. So you meet a lot of people doing that, and I think that's definitely a great tool to look into.
Same question. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so, we travel a lot, and I feel like Houston's very unique. There's a different vibe in every neighborhood, whether it's, Montrose, the Heights, Edo. I feel like, we get friends from out of town that want to do business here all the time, and I don't know, I feel like Houston's very different from other cities. So you really do have to understand the city, the people, and what people appreciate here. So yeah, that's what I believe in. And for networking, Sandy's really good at that. I'm not too much on that, but I feel like when any Houston locals, when anyone finds something that's good or that they appreciate, word of mouth spreads really fast. So I always let the work and the product speak for itself, and you go from there.
Speaking of that, you guys have been intentional about keeping the business separate from your personal lives. I'm curious how that's worked out for you and why that was an intentional decision to start out.
I think that's an easy choice. We wanted to be known for our product and our brand, not just because of who we were or where we came from. So we did really hide behind the scenes for the last 4 years before we opened up Toot Sweet. We really didn't want to put our name out there. So right now, I think we did a great job, doing that. Sweet is a great brand, and people recognize Sweet as a brand, and they don't automatically associate Sweet with the two of us. So now I think is a great time for us to finally say, hey, yeah, we own this.
Very cool. So we got 2 questions for Justin that have been voted up equally. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer which one you like. Have you ever created a burger and after tasting it thought, what was I thinking?
Yes, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I just did one with peanut butter, and we made like a strawberry sriracha. Not going to happen.
Didn't make it on the menu?
No, it's not going to happen. No.
Not even for no?
No, I mean, if someone wants to come in, I'll make it for them. I always have everything around to do that, but I'm never going to do that again.
All right, and so another question is, you mentioned time and quality that leads to your success. What about marketing, promotion, advertising, and branding? What role has that played in the success of your business?
It's 100%. I mean, from all the food that I handed out at the beginning, which I consider marketing, Facebook and Twitter, now Instagram, I mean, huge. That's how we communicate with people. That's how we tell them where we're going. And as a food truck owner, we can't afford to spend any money on marketing. And, timing is everything. We started this truck at the right time when Twitter became a little bit more popular and people understood how to use Twitter and what it was used for food trucks. And so we were able to capture a lot of people really fast. I think I remember looking at our Twitter feed one morning, putting a post up, we jumped 3,000 people in a day. It's imperative now. I mean, we use it every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. And I think you have to be out there and you have to be fresh and you have to be showing people what you do, because people forget with all this information that's being streamed to people constantly through their phone. People are looking at so much stuff that you get lost really quick. So if you're not up to date and going over it and showing people the food over and over again, it can get lost like that.
Yeah, it's important to have a conversation with your customers through Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
As far as being authentic and having an authentic relationship with them, right?
Yeah, I mean, we try and answer everybody. I mean, if people make a comment or say something funny, I mean, we try and like it. We try and be as engaged as possible. It started off with just me doing everything. Now I have a couple people who've worked for me for a while that are helping me do it. But yeah, we talk about it a lot. Every manager meeting we have, we talk about social media and what we're going to do for the next upcoming week and how it's going to get better, and what type of funny pictures we're going to post and who we're going to talk about, and it's an important thing for sure.
And Ann and Sandy, I have a question for you too. When you started Sweet, was there ever a time where you were close to giving up? This is a question from the audience.
So first off, partnerships are tough, but no, there was never a second we wanted to give up.
I think before we even got into the business, I think we both had the conversation, a serious one, where it was, we're never going to give up, and that was kind of the baseline of our relationship. We just knew that no matter what the circumstances were, we were just going to try, and to whatever means that meant. So no, that never really crossed our mind.
That's not an option.
Very good. Why start a food truck instead of a brick and mortar building? Is curious.
Money.
Money.
Lots of money. Yeah, restaurants are expensive. Food trucks are cheap. I've had enough, barely enough, to start a food truck, and being a personal chef for 7 years, no one knows who you are. I went around to Chris Shepard and Brian Caswell, and I looked around for jobs, just curious to see what was out there. And it's one of those industries. You got to start all over again. I got to start at the bottom and work my way to the top. And it was one of those things. I don't want to work for anyone else. I'd had a really good run doing what I was doing, and got to experience a lot. And so the food truck was the only way that I was able to do it without having to borrow money from anybody.
Very good.
Yeah.
We have another question from the audience for all of you. If you weren't doing what you are currently doing, what would be your job? What would be your career right now?
2.5 years ago, I took the LSAT. I had more than one foot on the way to law school, and I see an old professor of mine every now and then who knows how I did on the exam and thinks that I'd be a good attorney. And he's like, yeah, this writing thing's really cute. When are you going to law school? And the short answer is that I'm just really having too much fun. So, yeah, probably never.
If I wasn't doing this, I'd still be in public accounting. That was my major. So it was a tough decision between having to finish out my first year at EY or to start our own business.
What would you be doing, Ann?
So just so everyone knows, I studied pre-med before all this. At the time, I knew it wasn't for me. But I always tell her if I ever got bored and we just made it so far that I could just sit back and relax, I would love to go back to med school. But I also always tell Sandy that if business was to ever go down, I would just become a flight attendant so I could travel. So that's always the running joke. But yeah, that's what I would be doing.
Nice.
I have no idea. I've cooked since I was 15. I started at Wendy's, so now I'm back to doing burgers again.
Better quality.
Yeah, a lot better. I don't know. I've always loved the restaurant industry. It was always fascinating to me to see how it just just how it is. How it plays out through service and cooking, and it was just a fascinating thing from the beginning. So I have no idea. Underwater basket weaving, maybe.
I hear that's a growing field.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are saying that a lot.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so last question for all of you. I'm curious, when your friends come into town, what are a couple places that you have to take them before they leave?
Oh, that is tough. Oh my goodness. What is the place? Uchi for sure. That would be my favorite sushi restaurant.
Toot Sweet.
Nice, nice.
Bernie's Burger Bus.
Thank you.
Brownie points.
Don't feel obligated to say that because we're sitting here.
Eric?
You know, it depends on who they are and what they're into. Because I had family in from the East Coast a few months ago, and you know they wanted Tex-Mex, and they're not super into food, and so some of the other more eclectic choices were right out. So we went to Ninfazan Navigation because I think that's the best Tex-Mex in the city. You know, if I have enough advance notice and they're really into food, you know, I'm happy to make a reservation at Oxheart. I think what's going on at Passion Provisions is really great. I'm really, really in love with Pax Americana these days. Or, you know, I mean, Himalaya, Mala Szechuan, I mean, there's a million choices. It just really depends on who they are and what they're into.
Yeah, I'll add to that too, because obviously Houston's really diverse.
Yep.
So there's a million cheap joints. So of course, if it's like close friends and family, it's always Bel Air for great Chinese, Vietnamese, and then there's amazing Tex-Mex here. And then of course, from any coast, West Coast or East Coast, you got to take them for barbecue.
Yeah,
I mean,
Killen's
Texas-
Barbecue is
Yes.
is the big one right now.
So of course, barbecue as well. So there's a lot of good comfort food, and a lot of Southern hospitality, and a lot of cheap food in Houston.
Yeah, way too much to
Yeah.
name. I mean, this moving here originally from Chicago, but I moved here from Memphis 8 years ago. The food scene here is incredible. I mean, it's so diverse, and I mean, you could spend weeks just in Bel Air, just trying stuff out. So that's what I did when I first moved here. I'm still working my way back east, but.
Very good.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got us performing for you guys, live performance right after this. There's going to be sponsored cocktails by Remy Martin at the bar. Please give a big round of applause for Eric, Sandy, Ann, and Justin. Thank you, guys.